Hollywood and the Western entertainment industry is burning itself down. For this, I'd point to what's happened to the company Ubisoft, because some people are reporting their stock has lost 85% of its value over the last 5 years. But when I did the sums, going from its very highest to its very lowest point, it's actually more like 89% of its value. And after the game Dragon Age Veilguard, it's looking like BioWare may not be too far behind them. It's looking a lot like they both got there, because they were more focused on political posturing than making products that actual people wanted to buy.
Here, vegetables. Thank you. So, I'm non-binary.
Who was looking for that in a fantasy game? Probably not the majority of their audience. Also, there's the amusing implication that comes from this ideology comfortably finding a home in sci-fi and fantasy. I've reviewed a lot of media for this channel, and that seems to be true for almost all of it, be it The Rings of Power, The Witcher, She-Hulk, The Acolyte, Gotham Knights, Robin Hood. Companies trying to tell the audience what they should enjoy instead of making something that they actually will enjoy. And how have we even got here? Because I'm broadly in favour of people being able to make whatever art and stories they want as long as it's legal. If you want to write a story with all men in it, fine. All women, fine. All rabbits, fine. Now, media seems to have to stick to an ever-expanding list of political requirements to even get made in the first place, like we're slowly morphing into the Soviet Union. I prefer creative freedom and different perspectives in art. I don't want to see the same one perspective repeated in everything, which in Western media now largely seems to boil down to feminism good, men bad, minorities good, the West bad. Freedom seems to have gone, along with customer choice, and the idea the customer is always right seems at this point nostalgic and quaint. It's seemingly been replaced by the phrase, we have to force behaviours. It doesn't help that the stars keep on coming across as being really weird, like Cynthia Erivo, the London-born star of the musical Wicked that I'm not watching because I hate musicals with a passion. She keeps on coming out in public, and for an actress, seems to continually struggle with acting like a human. Most of Hollywood seems to struggle with the exact same thing. It's getting so that Tom Cruise is looking relatively sane. What the hell even is that outfit? It looks like she's dressed in Nosferatu cosplay. And what the hell is this one? I had to have a think because it rang a bell in my head, and it finally struck me. It's the headgear. It reminded me of the Instant Martians from the Looney Tunes cartoons, and then the news comes out in the last few days, and she's just been cast to play Jesus. Whatever, I wasn't watching Jesus Christ Superstar anyway. And kind of funny, when people take a bold and brave stance against religion, that they almost always seem to pick one of the safe ones to criticise. Sadly, the same thing seems to be happening to the games industry as has happened with movies and comics. We're seeing the same pattern repeated over and over. Beloved franchises that have been around for decades and had established audiences are not being treated with respect, instead they're being hollowed out and used as cheap vehicles for the politics of the people making them. As an example of this, just go back and watch the Zoom call with the Avengers assembling to support Kamala Harris in the last US election, and try and make it through that utter cringe fest if you can. And oh boy, how well did that work out for old Kamala. Look in the UK at what Russell T Davies and his group have done to Doctor Who in the name of politics. Now it's looking like the show is going to get cancelled again. Or how about what was done to the Netflix Witcher show, where the star Henry Cavill reportedly left because the creatives allegedly hated the source material, and they wanted to make it more feminist. And in parts, the character The Witcher was barely in the show The Witcher. That show also probably won't last much longer. See also the changes made to James Bond. Also Mad Max. I mean, yeah. Why not make Mad Max feminist and get rid of Mad Max in a Mad Max film? All that makes perfect sense. Who likes Mad Max? Well, most of its audience. That's why you had to put his name in the title to try and sell the movie. The MCU has been hollowed out, and repeated overt attempts have been made to make that more feminist. And boy did South Park have Disney's number on this one. It's getting so that pretty much everything new that I look at for this channel is the exact same way.
We were just discussing ideas of what to do with the new Prince Eric movie.
Put a chick in it, make her gay!
That seems to be the strategy with every single franchise that Disney have, though there does seem to be an effort to move away from politics in the latest Captain America. They still didn't manage it, but at least it's maybe a sign of some sanity returning to the company. The MCU is one of the most profitable franchises in history, and now there's a genuine question of if it can be turned around before it hits the inevitable iceberg. Note that the title of this video is that the Western entertainment industry is burning itself down, not the Western political propaganda industry, because the entertainment industry seems to have forgotten what its purpose is, and seems to be acting more like the former than the latter. The purpose of the entertainment industry isn't to try and socially engineer the audience, it's to entertain. But long gone are the days where TV and film had political nuance, where they tried to show multiple sides and perspectives on an issue and treated the audience like adults. Instead, entertainment has turned into a festival of burning politicians in effigy, and not even veiled propaganda at this point. It isn't even okay for a thing or person to be apolitical any longer. Everything has been made political in a world where being apolitical is now viewed as a political act in itself. You're leaving no room for people to breathe, do you understand? The paintings of Constable are now seen as political just because they depict the past. And the past and nostalgia are now themselves painted as being right-wing. He was a landscape artist. He just painted fields. Has everyone taken leave of their senses? People keep on trying to drag Sydney Sweeney into politics, precisely because being apolitical is now seen as a political act in itself. And how well did all this political propaganda work out for Hollywood? Well, let's have a look. In the last US election, they lost pretty much everything. There's a lot of panic talk now about where the American left can find the Joe Rogan of the left, and you had one. The Joe Rogan of the left was Joe Rogan, and you drove him away by acting like lunatics. You're driving almost everyone away by acting like lunatics, and now instead of paying attention, you seem to be sticking to the very same playbook and instead doubling down. It's the very definition of insanity. Look, when your own damn voters are telling you to rein it in and you still aren't listening, who are you going to listen to? I'm not even sure where I am politically any longer. I'm patriotic and care about my country, so the BBC would probably label me as some sort of far-right bigot at this point. I mean, how can I not be extremist in their mind? I don't even want to burn the UK flag. And if you have a question as to if any particular franchise is being targeted in this way, the answer is probably yes. Oh goody! Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be culturally sensitive. Oh yes, exactly like Grand Theft Auto has been from the start. Oh no, wait. Grand Theft Auto has been the exact opposite of that right from the start, hasn't it? It has from day one been punkish, crass, near the knuckle, anti-establishment, abrasive. It's been like that since Grand Theft Auto 1. It's been like that since 1997, and it's a big part of what made it popular in the first place. So yeah, I'm sure the players will love it when you make GTA the exact opposite of all those things. Why do activist tools have to wreck every single thing they touch? So is Disney going to treat Snow White with respect, in some ways the film that made the whole company? No. No, of course they're not. Hollow it out and use it as a vehicle for feminism and inclusion politics instead. Can't have a sweet love story in 2025. They seem to want to take the love story and remove the love from it. What could possibly go wrong with this concept? At the same time, Disney is pursuing politics inside their company that to any sane definition appear to be open racial discrimination.
But they're not considering any white males for the shot. They're just not. We wanted to hire somebody in the department a few years ago now, who was half black, but didn't appear half black. And there was a creative executive who was like, we're not, that's not what's wrong. They wanted somebody in meetings who would appear a certain way, and he wasn't gonna bring that to the meeting. I mean, it kind of feels like at some point there's going to be a lawsuit.
Which would really get them in trouble if California's government was in any way functional. It takes some real effort to take so-called caring left-wing politics and make it openly racist, but somehow you did it, yet again. How many franchises is there now, Disney? Indiana Jones is now a smoking wreck. Disney tried to make it more feminist, and for some reason Indy went back in time to save the 1940s German dictator. Disney made The Acolyte and tried to make all Star Wars about feminism, space witches and woman-on-woman love, and after that, Star Wars Skeleton Crew seemingly couldn't get anyone to watch it. I wonder why. Apart from a few weird people on X who wanted to make bedroom time with the furry wolf pirate. Good job, Disney. I hope you like your new Star Wars audience of furries and Reylos and Reylo furries, all 5 of them. And it may seem unlikely, but this wolf pirate gave me a revelation about Star Wars. You see, I've always been fond of Star Wars as a franchise, because when I was very young I'd watch the movies with my family on holidays, and it was like a nostalgic window back to my childhood. And then I watched and reviewed the first few episodes of Skeleton Crew, and I was curious if the wolf pirate called Brutus was a new species made up for Skeleton Crew, or something already established. So I went to Wiki and read, Brutus is a Shistavarnan male pirate captain, and all at once it struck me how unbelievably lame Star Wars has become. And oh boy, can you see the dividends of all this political propaganda paying off. Carry on winning like this, Disney, and brace yourself for the first term of President Barron Trump coming someday soon. I can't work out if the people pushing this crud are just that blind and dumb or not paying attention. Or are they just taking money to make the left intentionally look bad and lose elections? It seems as healthy for me for a democracy to have only one functional wing as it does for a bird. They say never put down to malice what can be explained by incompetence, but with this sheer level of incompetence, it's becoming a stretch to even believe it. Just how many franchises does this have to happen to before people learn? I sure as hell wasn't expecting it to happen to both Tolkien and Scooby-Doo in the space of a couple of years, and it's all paying off so well, isn't it? In the UK, it's looking increasingly from the polling like Nigel Farage will be the next UK Prime Minister, and there are similar signs all over Europe. Hollywood, if you carry on like this, you're going to succeed in throwing your alleged party into the political wilderness for potentially decades and bankrupting yourselves at the same time. You know, when there's a thing that people love and you destroy it, how much do you think they're going to like you afterwards? This shouldn't be a hard question. How much do you think you can realistically change the franchise, the thing that people liked, before they stop liking it altogether and just switch off? You do not have a monopoly on entertainment and never did. You're replaceable, and you're looking more replaceable by the day. You're just causing your own replacement. Even if Japanese and Korean media didn't exist, movies and art and games exist from before you decided to make everything about activism. You have no God-given right to have people watch your shows, or read your comics, or play your games. And the "it happened in the comics so it's fine if we make the same political change in the films" is frankly not a great argument if the comics are also barely selling. Also, imagine a comic in which Tony Stark's Iron Man started openly praising the policies of the 1940s German government and had an 88 painted on the chest of his suit. Would the same people genuinely be arguing that would be fine in a film? Because they did it in the comics first, would they hell? So stop with the disingenuous rubbish, it's a weak excuse. They've made such a mess of the comics by doing the exact same playbook that's being done with film and TV and games that Japanese manga is now eating their lunch. Well done. For the games industry, we're seeing the rise of the popularity of East Asian games in the Western market. Things like Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Stellar Blade, Black Myth Wukong. That's where I get to the Doom franchise, because I had some concerns about new features in their upcoming Doom game. And how can you make something like Doom political? The protagonist Doom guy doesn't even talk, he just fights demons. I don't know, are you ready for the inclusion of the orangey demon? But well, it's already happening. Check out this review for Doom Eternal from 2020. It's already happening. There have been people lobbying for a game about fighting demons to be less about demons and more about their politics and inclusion and diversity for at least the last 5 years now. And how do you get representation into Doom, a game with one guy fighting against a horde of demons? Well, if future Doom is going to be more representative than games like Doom 1 and 2 were, it's going to need more story, isn't it? If you have a story, you can then start putting female characters into it, and that opens the door to all of the rest of the politics. Oh, they're putting more story and cutscenes into the new game, are they? Well, fancy that. They're focusing more on story and cutscenes and even showcased a female character in id's last video. They specifically made a point of it. The inclusion argument is starting to look like the thin end of the wedge. First, it gets called out by activists, then they get bought out by Microsoft, and all of a sudden the franchise starts to change and starts adding the things the activists were demanding all along. What will probably follow is a new list of demands. Going back to 1993, Doom has had difficulty levels. This new game will overhaul that system. that's been in every preceding Doom game and is now being replaced with difficulty sliders, and the sliders seem to be viewed by some activists as being a foot in the door to get more inclusion into the game, to make Doom more accessible for people who currently struggle with it, like people with a disability or games journalists. To be clear, I don't have a problem with more people being able to play the game, but that does carry the danger that if you try to make the game for everyone, you may end up making it for no one, and it shouldn't lose the challenge that brought in most of the audience in the first place. It may have been better to just make the easy mode easier instead of changing a feature that goes back to 1993, but then id would still have the problem that the original Doom was a bit punkish, and the easier settings actively mock the player for choosing them, and that's maybe not ideal if the player has a disability. So yes, I'm starting to see this may be an attempt to politically colonise the largely apolitical Doom franchise, and it's not much of a stretch to believe after the same has been done to Warhammer 40k, Doctor Who, The Witcher, and a pretty endless list of other media at this point. At some point, I'd not be surprised if Doom Guy starts coming in with a choice from a Type 2 or Type 1 body. Maybe they can get some of the now unemployed programmers from BioWare to help them give Doom Person top surgery scars. They can have Doom Person voiced by either Amanda Stenberg, Pedro Pascal or Rachel Zegler. That'll be nice, won't it? Oh no, I've got it. If they really wanted to follow the pattern, have Doom Guy voiced by Dylan Mulvaney.
Clothes like this, and we all just normalize women having bulges sometimes, because we're coming up on bikini season, baby, and you might see a bulge or two. So normalize the bulge, we are normalizing the bulge.
And retcon it so Dylan is the voice of Doom Guy going back to Doom 1. Then, maybe a year or so after that, the final worker at id will presumably shut the lights off for the last time, as id gets sent to the knacker's yard like a lame horse. Essentially, if id bows to the activists and wants to see their future, they don't need a crystal ball, they need to only look at Ubisoft.
Having bulges sometimes, because we're coming up on bikini season, baby, and you might see a bulge or two. So normalize the bulge, we are normalizing the bulge.